Hello and welcome to this tutorial. I'm going to walk you through how to build a very simple interactive mock-up or prototype. We'll try to work with a mobile app as an example, but you can use this to prototype any type of application that has a user interface. So we're going to start off by going to mockimbot.com. This is a free site that you could use to build mock-ups. There are lots of industry recognized tools, a little bit more expensive, maybe InVision app and other mockflow mocking tools for doing this. For what we need to do, we're going to focus on Mockingbot as a sample tool. So I already have an account. If you don't have one, you're going to click on sign up. Enter your name, your email address, set up a password, and then click sign up. But by the magic of video, I already have an account. So once you log in or create your account, you're going to get a view that looks similar to this. You probably have no projects. I have a couple of projects that I've created in the past. I can walk you through one of my previous projects, kind of show you how things were created. So I have a couple of screens. And once you create a project, you can create multiple screens inside of that project. So this is a mobile app, iOS app, we're selling smoothies. So I have a nice background image here. I've got a button. I've got some text. I've got another image. When I click on this, I can see the other screens that I've built. You can see some of the complexities, different icons, so on and so forth, right? Lots of very interesting things you could do. This guy needs to go. So you've got a couple of different options when it comes to building mockups, right? Here's just an example of how you can build one. So I'm going to go back to my starting screen, and I'm going to say yes to saving this. Let's go back, and we're going to create a new project. So click on Create Project. If you're building a project, you could pick from some of these templates. As a starting point, you can add animation, all kinds of very interesting things. For the sake of what we need to do, we're going to use a very simple iPhone app project. So I'm going to create an iPhone app prototype. I'm going to call this Lab 3 app. You can call it whatever you choose to. I'm going to switch the device type to iPhone X. If you have an icon for your app, you can actually upload it here. A splash screen with the first screen you see before the app actually loads. You can add your own image. We're not going to publish this app anywhere, so it's fine to just name it, set the device type, and click on Create. It'll take a couple seconds, and then you should be able to see something that looks like this. The first screen in my app, let me make this a little bit larger so we can see it. It's going to be the login screen. So I'm going to double click on this file or this option here, and I can type in login. So that's my login screen. I'm going to create another screen called maybe the home screen. And then I'm going to create another screen called maybe maps. So I'm creating some type of maps app, and you're going to be able to log in, maybe view a map of something on it, and then something else on the home screen there, right? First thing I want to do is maybe set a background image for the app screen. So I can maybe set the background color by clicking down here where I have my mouse. If you hover over it, it should say something to the effect of background. I can change the color to, let's pick something closer to that, and that looks like a LinkedIn blue, if you will. I could probably add a rectangle to block off, creating some type of design element here, right? And then I'm going to add an image inside of this. So I use the image widget, if you will, and you resize this and position this. If you're very good with creative design, you're going to make sure you have this lined up real well. So this is just an image. But we're going to fill in this with an actual image. So I'll show you how to bring in an image into your project. We're going to use this screen. Let me actually go back to this as kind of the template for what the login screen should look like. Notice I can actually type in something here. I can type in my password there, and I click on login, and it takes me to another screen. So that's the basic functionality that we're looking for in this example. All right, but I'm creating a completely different design, if you will. But I still need a text box. So I'm going to use this text input control or widget, if you will. We're going to start calling those controls when you start working in Visual Studio or some type of IDE. I'm going to have this selected. I can do Control-C, Control-V to copy-paste. Otherwise, I could just drag another input control in there. This is going to be my username box, and this is going to be my password box. I need to change the font size of this guy. Text input is pretty small. You can't quite see it. I can do that by setting text size in the inspector panel. If for whatever reason you can't see the inspector panel, it's right here. So make sure you click on that, and then you should be able to see. It's kind of your properties pane for each of these widgets. So I'm going to change this to, let's say maybe 20. And then I could double click inside of this and type in username, maybe 3 dots at the end to indicate to a user that this is where you type in that. Now I'm going to change this to 20 to match. This is going to be your password field. Notice I used text input. You don't want to use just a rectangle to take care of this, because a rectangle would be read-only. You wouldn't be able to type anything in. It's better to use a text input if you're trying to capture some data that a user is going to be entering, right? And there are a whole bunch of different widgets or tools, tool options in here. There's a drop-down list, there's a text area, tooltips, all kinds of fun, interesting options. Then I'm going to look for a button. A button that would say something to the effect of login. So here's a button widget right here. I'm going to drag that on here. Now when you're designing mobile apps specifically, you need to design them with human touch in mind. And in some cases, you know, we have fat fingers from time to time. So it makes sense to select a large font size, number one, but then also have the button maybe larger so folks can interact with it. In this case, I'm going to change the color of this text, right? To change the color of this text, I'm going to click this little icon here. I'm going to make this maybe that color of blue. I'm double clicking to change this to login. And then I'm going to change the background color of this button by changing the fill to maybe something more like this. I don't quite like it. Maybe that looks a little bit better. So now I'm going to go back and change the text. Maybe white, and that looks nice. So something pretty close to that is what I'm looking for. Perhaps I might add another button. Actually, because I've done a lot of work to this, I would simply do Control-C, Control-V on Windows. So I can copy this, or you could do Command-C, Command-V if you're on the Mac. And I'm going to call this register, because I would eventually have another page, maybe the register page, and I'm going to try to link this to the registration page. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go change this to the register page, and then we'll have maps as a second page. I'm going to have 3 pages to showcase what you can do here. Now, typically, as part of creative design, or usability design, you might be interested in maybe downplaying this registration button, because this would be used only for folks who are trying to register for the first time. Folks who already have an account are not likely to click that button, so I'm going to draw their attention to the login button. So I'm going to try to minimize you know, this button by changing the color a little bit to something that doesn't stand out quite as much, right? I might have a forgot password and all kinds of stuff that you can imagine. I'm going to move this. You can use the up and down arrow keys on your keyboard to move things around. You could also select a group of controls or widgets and move them or drag them up or down as you see fit, right? All right, so I think I have what I need here for the login page. But now I need to add an image. So to do that, I'm going to go get an image from Google. So to do that, I'm going to open up a browser and search for icons maybe, and then switch to images. Let's say I'm looking specifically for tip calculator. If I can spell, it'll make life a lot easier. And there are a bunch of different icons available. This looks interesting. So I'm going to select that. In this case, if I want to pick something that has a transparent background, then it would be nice if I picked something that looks more like, let's see if this one has a transparent background. I'm not quite. So let's pick this one. This one has a transparent background, so you can see the checker box in the background there means I can get this image with the background a non-existent, a transparent background color. So I'm going to save this. I just right-click on it, save image as, and let's save it to, let's say, my applications box here, and I'll call it icons. Okay, icon PNG, save. All right. I'm going to come back in here, and when I select this image widget, you scroll all the way down. I should see an option for upload. And I click upload. Try to see if I can find applications. You might save it to your desktop. I happen to throw it in here. So I'm going to pick this up, open, and that opens up, and I can resize this, make it smaller, make it bigger, fit it in there. Right, so something much like this, and it kind of fits my decor. I could probably go ahead and maybe even remove this guy. Maybe put this around that instead. I'm trying to change the design approach a little bit. I could send this to back, bring it to forefront. I'm just showing you some examples of what you can do from a design perspective. So I'm going to do something like that. This kind of matches what I'm looking to accomplish. Maybe I'll change this background color to something that makes this stand out a little bit more. Something much like that. Right? I think I like this design. If I like this and I want to maybe use this for my registration page, I could duplicate this because the login and the register page are likely to look the same. So I can make a copy of it by clicking this copy icon, right? And that creates a copy. I'm going to rename this register. Then I'm going to delete this register page from deleted. What did I do here? Oh, I think I ended up designing this on this instead. Okay, well, let's fix that. Install this maps. And we are going to delete this guy. And we'll make a copy of this guy instead. And call it register. Here we go. So log in, register. Right? On my register page, maybe you would say, I'm going to put some text on here. Something to the effect of sign up for an account. I'm just going to make this a little bit bold, change it to a little white color of some sort so it stands out. Double click inside of it, create an account. Create an account. Let's resize this a little bit. Larger font size maybe. Make it stand out. Right. And then let's center it. All right, so you can use some of these options up top. All right, so I think I have something that I like, perhaps on the create account page, this button is going to be called sign up, and I'm going to have another button that takes you back to the login page, and that's going to be login or sign in. Let's go with login. Already have an account. So if you get here by mistake and you already have an account, you go back to the previous screen, right? You can do some very interesting things by playing with rounded corners. I'm going to play around with this so you can see how the corners of the button is changing. So maybe let's go to about 65, something like that. So this button would have a different shape. Maybe I can add rounded corners to that as well. That's all in the radius selection. Maybe this is about 25, something like that. Right? I'm really trying to give this thing some shape, so on and so forth. It's completely up to you on the design aspect of things. Maybe not so much. I'm going to go with 24. Make that fit. So the login page looks something like this. I'm going to change this to create an account. To create an account, you click that button. Maybe I'll stick with the same 65 radius. This time I know what I want. I'm going to type in 65. Need to hit enter first so it can take shape. Then I'm going to change that to 25 so I have a very consistent design. Right, something much like that. Now the next thing I'm going to do here is link this create an account button to the registration page. Right, so anytime a user comes in and they click this button, I'm going to simulate an action where they click on it and get to a different page. So on the login page, I'm going to select this button. Notice this little icon right here. I'm going to click on it, hold the mouse, drag it to the page you want to link it to, the register page, then release the mouse, and now you get this link established. Then you're going to get a nice pop-up that's asking you for transitions. You can set up all kinds of animated transmissions, left push, right push, slide to the left, slide to the right. I'm going to go with right slide. And so now this button is linked to this page, but I can't really test it yet, and that's okay. Next thing I want to do is go back to my register page and link the already have an account button to the login page, right? And so that is now established. Maybe I'll do slide, right slide as well for that transition. You don't really have to set a transition. Now I'm going to link the sign up button. If they sign up successfully, maybe I want to take them to the maps page, right? So I'm going to link that. Maybe do a left slide on that. I'm going to go back to the login page and then link the login button to the maps page. So if they successfully transition to the maps page, they can, click login and successfully go to the maps page, if you will. Let's add one more field because I want to capture the name of whoever is signing up. On the on the register screen, but on the login screen, I don't really need to capture that, right? Username and password is all I need on there. So this is going to be first name. Let's add some 3 dots to this. All right. Looks like a nice sign-up page. I mean, I can make this as graphical as it needs to be. But you get an idea. You can set a background image, as your background. You can add animation and all kinds of functionality as you go. Now let's go to the maps page and implement some. So this is the title of the page. The title bar could be My maps, so I'm setting that out there. I could probably make it bold, change the size, kind of make it stand out a little bit. So my maps, and then I'm going to add a map widget to this and have it fill. So let's imagine we're building the limo app, and the first landing page looks something like this. You'd see a bunch of maps. That seems like a good implementation. I'm going to add a tab bar. So a tab bar would allow you to add tabs to the app. So usually in iOS, since this is iOS, the tab bar is at the bottom. Then to add little icons to them, you can use a tab item, this guy here, drag it on here, and this is going to be home. If I need to look for a specific type of icon, let me search for maps. There are a whole bunch of map icons. This is traditionally a map pointer icon that most people pin, if you will, that most people are comfortable with. So I'm going to name this My Maps. Maps, map. I can add another icon, maybe showing history of your limo requests. Maybe I'll select this icon or that to represent that. Let's imagine that you'd be able to chat with your friends using the limo app. Let's move this guy here. So I'm going to add some type of chat, and I'll change the icon. See if we can find something regarding chat. If I can actually, that looks better, or maybe that. All right, or that. Yeah, I like that. I like this better. All right. Typically in mobile apps, you want to show the current selected tabs. So one of the things you can do is you can change the color of the selected tabs. So we're going to be on the map tab by default. So I'm going to have change the color of that. Let's see if we can change this to maybe red or some type of pinkish color, if you will, to make it stand out. So this is the current tab that you're on, and then these are some additional tabs you can go to. You can create other screens for the other tabs, right? For the sake of what we're doing, this is probably good enough. I'm going to add maybe some other icon to the top here somewhere, so we have some type of logout, which will link back to the login page. So we'll use that. Let's call it logout. That's not the typical place where you might keep this, but for the sake of what I need to illustrate, this is probably good enough. Let's make it maybe green. Call people's attention to logout. So now I'm going to link that button to the login page, right? So if you click logout, it's simply going to take you back to the login page. It's just a very simple implementation. Kind of illustrate a very simple application. I can have different icons to show some limos. Bring in a little car icon. Maybe we could try that. Show maybe some type of a limo. Maybe that looks good, like that. I can remove the text at the bottom. Maybe change the color of this, so maybe it stands out, like green. Do a Control-C, Control-V, create lots of limos all over the place to kind of illustrate, how this thing might be set up. Right. So it's kind of a good representation of what I'm looking to do. Now to test out this application, make sure all this stuff is working. I'm simply going to go to the preview, top right-hand corner, click on that. Now I can test my app. So you get a nice border around it, iPhone X. The first page is probably going to be the login page. I can click in here and type in some fake username and password. But more importantly, if I click on login, it takes me to the maps page. I click on log out. It takes me right back to the login page. I click on create an account. That takes me to create an account that had the little animation effect. I can click on already have an account, go back to the login screen, create an account, sign up, takes me to the map screen. And that's what I was looking to illustrate. So this gives you a very nice idea of how you can build very interesting, complex, and fun mockups, right? When you're ready and you want to share this on your Facebook page, your blog, or submit an assignment, you want to click on this share icon, and then you should have a nice URL up here. This is the URL that you want to copy. It should be very different from the URL up top. The URL up top has workspace/apps. This is your workspace inside of Mockybot. More than likely, nobody can see this app through this link. This is the link that you can share. So you want to copy this link, Control-C to copy. If you want to embed this in your blog, you copy the HTML and embed it in your website or your Facebook page or something like that. But for what I need for your lab exercise, you want to copy this link and paste it in the document. If you want to go back to your design view, because this is preview mode, click on icon top left-hand corner to go back. That brings you back to design view. And that's all we had to cover for this. I hope that gives you some good insight on how to build interactive mockups. Bye-bye.